Okay.
Would you all please rise and join me in the pledge? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All 7 of us are here, so public comment? Hearing none. Sam, we'll let you folks go first, and that way if you want to boogie, you can.
Your April reports are in front of you. For April, we saw a decrease in volume, 126 calls. Still maintained our times, 27 emergent transfers, 7 non-emergent. Transported or refused to transport, AMAs were up drastically, 39. And it's everything that we expected with COVID. People don't want to come to the hospital. Our hospital volumes significantly down, clinic volumes down, everything across the board for us is down. So just concerning to us from healthcare providers that heart attacks and strokes don't stop during COVID. So hopefully people are seeking healthcare when they need it. We are taking all the appropriate precautions as guidelined by IDPH for cleaning, sanitizing, whole bit. Any questions on your reports?
Sam, what is the hospital starting to do now that they weren't doing a couple weeks ago?
Well, everything is open. All services are open. Nothing, we aren't putting things aside how we had been back in early March. Like as far as surgeries and doctor visits, those types of things. We've pivoted and asked our consumers, what do you like? Some of them don't feel comfortable coming in the building, so we're still offering the curbside visits where you pull up into a parking spot, there's a phone number on a sign, you call, the provider comes out to your vehicle and does your assessment and determines what you need. We have the drive-through lab visits as well, where if you need to get your lab work checked or your doctor has ordered some lab work, you don't have to exit your vehicle, you pull under the blue canopy and the folks there masked will draw your blood as well.
Is there a funnel under the window there, or no urine?
There is no urine testing in that spot.
Especially if you get out of your vehicle.
We will give you a cup and let you go home, collect it, and bring it back to us, so unless it's specific ones, can't do that, but.
I just want to make sure everybody knew that you were more open for business than you've been.
We're really trying to do some innovative things. Ollie has challenged us all to, we believe that innovation, the people that are innovative will rise out of this time and be sustainable. And so there's several new projects on the horizon, just hoping that the government sticks with some of their payment models that they've implemented during COVID. If they do not post-COVID, some of those things would not be viable, but.
Okay.
What, are you able to track what you mentioned people not wanting to transport in? I mean, are you tracking the fact that you have to come back to the same place, or has there been much of that, or, you know?
Yeah, we do. We have what are called case managers. We have one lady who we've gone to her house. I counted the other day, 34 times.
39 times in April?
Well,
I'm
no,
not
we
sure.
did 34 times since January 1. So we have worked with, part of her issue is that she doesn't have a ramp. So Faith in Action, she's on the list to get a ramp, but they're not building right now because of COVID. So we're working with a different contractor to see if we can get her a ramp built. There's a multitude of multiplex problems in the community. A lot of it resorts to transportation and people not having support or not having anybody that is able to either lift them, transport them, take care of them. And so we do turn those over to case managers. We track those, and we were just talking before you talked about something we need to track and get numbers to.
Are you transporting any dialysis patients? Because Faith in Action's not driving now, so I was wondering Not at the moment.
Not at the moment. We
Okay.
don't have any.
I just wonder how they get into dialysis.
Yeah, I don't know. We didn't have any that we transported prior to COVID either, though.
Nothing.
I know it's not your department, but how's the building construction coming on the new building behind?
Very, very, very close to opening.
Okay.
None of that has stopped. There was some shifting of hours so that not a lot of people were all there during the day. There were some people working during the day, some people working during the night. But it has kept on the timeline of progression, and so I'm still looking at opening very soon. I know they were saying end of May. I'm guessing it'll probably be mid-June, but still.
That came up in conversation with somebody, and you don't see the activity around there, kind of like that.
Yep,
Okay,
and we still
thanks.
have a lot of construction projects inside the hospital
Right.
that are still going on as well, and those have continued as well.
Anything else? Thank you, guys. You're welcome to stay, but you're also welcome to head out, okay? Next item, we all agreed we wanted to talk to our treasurer, Don, about the tax bills and how we can handle them differently this year to accommodate everything that's going on. So I'll let you, you've done most of the research, Don, so I'll let you go.
Okay, thank you. Needless to say, when the time comes where things are turned over to me, historically, it takes us 10 business days to receive it, or get the green light, review it, print it, stuff it, postage it, get it out. We've been able to stick to that 10 business day scenario for, I think, about the whole time I've been treasurer. If we go with that fact, and we go backwards just a little bit, it's in Augie's court right now for levies and rates. So whenever that happens, where everything's approved and I get it, we sit down and we project. We have to allow 30 days from the mailing date for the first installment. By statute, which we've never been able to do, I don't even know if it was done before I was treasurer, as a lot of other counties, the same situation. By statute, they're supposed to be mailed May 1st with a June 1st due date and a September 1st due date, give or take how it falls on the calendar. I don't focus on that. It all happens when it happens. My concern, as is your concern, and a lot of the other treasurers and county boards in the state, because of this COVID-19, people are struggling, and I have they had the United Counties Council of Illinois, this was forwarded to me by Augie. Basically, they had some attorneys review what our options are. Well, we're already doing the one thing where we just don't set the due dates June 1st and September 1st. We're already doing that. It's saying things about a disaster area and things like that. There's also one here where 50% of each installment can have the penalty waived. Well, I'm not going down that road. You know, that would be a bookkeeping nightmare. So here's a sample of one of the resolutions by a county board. It starts out, whereas COVID-19, blah, 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 and explains how everything. And then it says, therefore be it resolved, said county, that the real property in the county has been adversely affected by the COVID-19 global pandemic. Therefore, on the recommendation of the county board, the penalty of interest shall be postponed for the first installment of property taxes for 19 pay 20, and it cites the statute of where it says how the interest is supposed to be, that what would normally be imposed will be waived as long as the taxpayer pays it on or before the second due date. Okay? However, it goes on to say, and this is kind of what all the other counties are kind of leaning towards, failure to pay first installment will result in full application of applicable penalties pursuant to the property tax code retroactive back to the first installment date.
If they don't pay
If
this.
they don't, it's basically this resolution saying you can pay it all in one installment without penalty. Just pay it on the second installment due date, it's all good. But they're saying if you don't, then you're going to get that retroactive penalty, just like you were buying something on a 12-month payment plan and they show you that accrued interest, then all of a sudden if you don't pay it, it all comes back. I don't know that I agree with that, but that seems to be the mentality of what the counties that have already been discussing it. As far as delaying the installment due dates, let's say, normally we have a mid-July to mid-September due dates, give or take a week. If we would go mid-August to mid-October, that's doable. We had that here a couple, 3 years ago. We had like a August 6th pay first installment. It makes our schedule tight for October and November, trying to get everything done in the fiscal year, but it is doable. As long as it's more in the mid-month range versus pushing everything towards, if we had a second installment due date of towards the end of October, November is just a nightmare for all of us with everything going on.
How does it affect the budget though, if you don't get your money?
That would be the only, in either scenario, we have a lot of people that normally, the minute they get the tax bill, they're in, and they're paying both installments, and it helps us out, helps everybody out, that I'm able to do a pretty healthy distribution before the actual due date. Because not only do we need it, but a lot of the taxing districts need it. So, schools never want their money before July 1st. If I would even mention about giving them their money to July 1st, they'd probably come to you guys and say, wait a minute, I think we need to talk to Don here. It really messes up their books. So I will not do a distribution before July 1st, but depending on after July 1st, how the money's coming in, whether we would do a delayed penalty on everything. I don't know how the taxpayers are going to react. There are going to be some that, oh, I have until September, and they're going to push it back. Many out of necessity, some just out of procrastination. I tell you what, you have to sometimes all but yank on that check to get it out of their hands. I mean, it's like, I don't want to give it up. So, my feeling is, I think, regardless of what we would do here, and what ends up being the time it's turned over to me, I think the waiving of the penalty to the second installment due date would go along with a lot of what's going on otherwise in the state. And I still think there would be enough money coming in to give us a shot in the arm along with any other taxing districts. I still think we need to get the tax bills out as soon as possible.
What would be wrong with doing away with the penalty, no penalty at all, if you pay late? Would that be a problem? Disregard the penalty, no matter when they pay.
I don't think that would, there's got to be
even if it's
Yeah.
a mental thing.
Yeah, there's gotta be a hangman there to pull that lever if somebody doesn't wanna pay it, and, I don't know,
How does that work normally?
It's technically the same thing.
Yeah.
how does it work normally?
If I don't pay my property
Yeah.
taxes?
Okay, if you don't pay your, let's say you have a due date of today,
Your
if you don't
first
pay
payment.
it,
First payment.
first payment,
Tracking.
tomorrow starts, you're nailed 1.5% of that amount, and it's good for 30 days. So you pay it any time in the next 30 days, it's still 1.5% on every, $1.50 on every 100 that you owe, okay? If you don't pay by the second, and after the second 30 days, then it's another, then it turns into 3%. I,
Keep going. No, here's why I'm asking, right?
okay,
So, to
Yeah.
Dan's point, at the end of the calendar year, the end of the fiscal year, whichever applies, someone has not paid their property taxes, what's the next step?
then we, of course, do the certified mailings. That has the wording that just scares the heck out of you, like they're gonna take your house from you.
Yeah.
And then we have the publication, which really gets people upset or concerned. And then we have our tax sale, whereas the judge signs off for me to sell the taxes, which creates an official tax lien on the property.
That's a 3 years thing there.
Well, yes and no. It starts a clock, where 2.5 to 3 years later, the tax buyer of the taxes can pursue getting deed. But in the meanwhile, even if the taxpayer would pay the second and third year on his own, it does not do away with that amount that still needs to be redeemed.
Is the penalty still accumulating all that period of time?
Yeah, once it becomes part of a tax lien, every 6 months, 6 months is preloaded on the amount that will do the tax sale, and it is as high as 18% semi-annually, 36% annually. It's worse than loan
It's
shark.
where the house over on Wood Street, they had a tree on top, they had signs said you can buy it for $816. I mean, that, to me, that would be a very low amount to get the house is no good, but you have a lot, it's worth probably more than $800.
Yeah.
But that was what the sign said.
Yeah, those are properties that have defaulted to our tax agent at these tax sales, because the official tax buyers, the professional tax buyers, they have no interest in it, so anything that they do not purchase defaults, and then we sell it eventually after the 3-year clock to, in a sealed bid auction.
Whatever you get out of it.
Right,
Yes.
well, yeah, and yes.
When would the tax sale occur on this cycle?
Okay, normally, it's the Thursday before the last Friday in October. So this year it would be like October 29th, I think. That's
So-
where, huh?
So I guess if we were wanting to move these payments back, we can't go any further than that?
No, there's nothing that says that you have to stay within our fiscal year and things like that. It just becomes more interesting, especially when you're trying to do distributions and get that money out to the people that need it. I'm saying that if we end up if we get the tax bills out as soon as possible, but we don't make the first installment due until the middle of August, and the second one, the middle of October, then the tax sale would probably be the middle of November, like it was several years ago. It was a struggle, but between our two offices, we got it done. But we got it done.
And you'd also waive the penalty on the first payment if ultimately made.
Right. That might be the best of both worlds. Get the tax bills out as soon as possible. Just right off the bat say nothing's due until the middle of August, the middle of October, with a tax sale the middle of November. That's how it was several years ago. And add the point that no penalty happens until the second due date, or at least for the first installment. And whether or not you want it to be retroactive, that is something for discussion.
Have you read any of the sample resolution, or the resolutions that have already been passed with some other counties?
Yeah, that's the one I was reading
Is
from.
that
That's been
Sangamon?
passed.
This is McHenry.
Okay. Well, I've read Sangamon and Kane County. Yeah, Kane County. Sangamon just basically waived the penalty till, I think their second installment's due sometime in September. They waived the penalty. Kane County, I think they moved the date back 30 days before they start assessing penalties.
I did see where one county just gave a 30-day grace period on the first installment.
Right.
Well,
That's what.
that's doable. But in the whole scheme of things, I think if we make a decision right off the bat to just follow that, what we did a few years ago, just because that's the way it worked out, I still think we get enough money coming in.
We need to keep it simple. If we throw something in there, everybody's gonna get, excuse me, Dan, it's gonna get,
Borrow money for a period of time to make your
Well,
payments and so forth.
Well, now that you brought that up, I have drawn on our line of credit for the first time, last day of last month, of $150,000 of our $500,000 allowed. I won't draw on it again until the end of this month, until all the expenses and all the revenues and the dust is settled, then I will decide. I'd like to say I think, but I'm gonna say I promise you I will be drawing on it at the end of this month. I don't know how much. I had the option to do advances to taxing districts, which means as long as I have collected monies sitting in the bank that is designated for, you know, I can do the breakdown, the software does that. I can do an advance to just one district or all the districts. I don't know how the schools are doing, but if one of them would call me June 30th and say, Don, guess what, tomorrow's July 1st and we need some money, I would do whatever I could to help them out. Just like I do, I try to help out HRC. HRC has had some challenging times over the years. I tell them, just give me a letter explaining your situation and I can give you an advance.
So you feel like that if we do delay things, that if someone gets in a pinch, if the money's there.
If the money's there, Carl,
You can accommodate it.
I will do the best I can. I
And
always
you
have.
feel like probably the money will be there.
Right, I think there will be some money there. I just don't know how this spin's gonna affect how much is gonna be there. You know, I think last year, the first distribution I gave was more than half of what we were gonna be collecting. I mean, so many people stepped forward. And I would think that maybe if we did a public information thing through the paper, kind of explaining things a little bit, and emphasize that I don't ever want to say that we can't meet payroll, because that's not the case. You know, I'm just saying, if we focus on our cash flow, that we always have a challenging time right now, and it's even worse than it has been. Please, those that can, please come in and pay. Don't, and yes, you have this extra grace period, but please don't put things on the back burner to the point that it's gonna nail you.
Jeopardize.
Yeah.
You want something like that put in the paper?
Well, I think eventually, before the next board meeting, if we would have maybe another discussion, things, because it'll take a resolution to decide this, whatever route we take.
But I know I've had conversations with business owners and people that are laid off work, and I know it's gonna be a struggle.
Right.
And we've got to do something, you know, it's not their fault.
Right, but
No, but, and I 100% agree, and I think, and that's what I've been trying to figure out. There's also a significant percentage of people, fixed incomes, et cetera, that the timing really, if their finances haven't been impacted, they could still meet the July deadline just fine.
Right.
And our challenge is how to encourage them to still do that, so we have money coming in, but those that can't, how to delay it to help them out. And
Something in paper.
darn if I know a good way to do that.
Well, I think your fixed income people probably are gonna pay
Right.
anyway. Don't you find that the case?
if I had to make a general statement, I would say a lot of the double payments, everything paid up front is people that are a little older, maybe retired, have got their budgets down to a penny, and that too. But you're right, I think, now, there's one thing I don't understand, I haven't put much thought in it. They end it with where it says, be it further resolved on this one, and I noticed that on some others. All escrowed property tax payments are not subject to the resolution and are still required to be paid on or before the required due dates. Sorry, if we are going to waive penalty, don't make me
Pick who's.
pick
who,
and hear about this later.
But the escrow is already there in the bank, right? So
Well,
they
the thing about it
can
is,
take it out of the bank.
yeah, but
Yeah.
this started in March, this, where it impacted everybody. And they know, these escrow services know that when the due dates usually are, the ballpark, and there may not be enough money. There should be enough money in there for the first installment, by all rights, but bottom line, I don't agree with that part of this resolution.
By an escrowed account, I assume the most common scenario is if you're making a mortgage payment and your taxes are rolled into the mortgage.
But your taxes
So that
would be
goes
more
back
than what
to the
the
working
escrow is,
population that may not have made a mortgage
Right.
payment.
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah, my
Yeah.
concern is, don't tell me there aren't people out there that are having trouble making their house payment. I'm
Yeah.
sure there are.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And that's going to affect their escrow and house insurance, everything.
Well, between the two of you that are involved in this process, how long, what's the earliest you think it could even get to?
That's a good question. Thanks for asking. Couple things. Springtime is a busy time of the year for the county clerk's office anyway, and because I don't have the luxury of several more staff members, we don't touch taxes until we're done with the election. Okay, so now we're done with that, and so I have a new person who needs trained. Well, with the COVID-19, that has affected the timing of the schedule for training. One can, one can't. So we're finally all on the same page, which is actually starting this morning. We're supposed to start training. But I just found out that our computer system is down. And it was down last week. So I'm gonna walk out of here after this meeting, I'm gonna find out what's going on, and hopefully we can get moving. Now, maybe you didn't need to know all that. How much time is it gonna take? In an ideal world, 2 to 3 weeks, I can be done with it and hand it off to Dawn.
1st of June roughly.
Ballpark, yes.
Yeah.
And, I'm thinking, just the way things go, if it's June 15th and he gets, we're, just start doing the math from there. I don't.
And then how long did you say it'd take for you?
10 business days. I would love to have them out before the end. What does June end on? I don't even know.
30th?
The 30th,
Yeah, I know, but what?
What day of the week?
whatever day it is.
I'm
Oh,
sorry,
I'm gonna talk
Doug. Here,
about you
hang
guys
on.
later.
I'm just being helpful. The 30th is on a Tuesday.
Okay, that gives us that a weekend just before, yeah. I would love to have them mailed out by the last Friday of June,
26th.
but I would love to see them mailed out by June 30th, and I think with just 10 business days, basically 2 full weeks, the end of June, I think we can do it.
So
And that's barring we don't have any problems.
July 1st, and then you say the earliest the due date could be is 30 days after that.
Is the earliest, but I would probably look at the calendar. I always make them due on a Friday, so whatever the second Friday in August is what?
14th,
There you go. Probably make the first one due the 14th,
so that'd be 6 weeks roughly.
and then have the other one due the second Friday. Well, there's a holiday in October. I might have to take that into consideration.
Well, the 9th is the second Friday. You've got Columbus, Indigenous, whatever
Yeah.
day on the 12th.
So the 16th
is the third Friday.
I'd probably make,
What is it now? What do you call it?
Indigenous
Indigenous
People
Peoples' Day.
It's
Day.
Columbus Day.
Columbus Day, Indigenous People Day.
Indigenous.
So we're
politically correct, okay?
Go ahead, we,
looking at like we had 2 or 3 years ago, those.
Right.
Yeah,
In all reality, that might be all we could do anyway.
right.
I mean, you can't maybe even do it any earlier than that.
I think, and I was starting to say, we need to keep this as simple as possible so people don't get confused. And I hasten to say that we have authorized the treasurer to borrow up to $500,000. We can legally borrow up to $750,000 to $800,000 if we had to.
If we have to.
And the interest rate, certainly better interest rate and a recoverable interest rate than what Joe Blow was trying to feed his family and has all kinds of issues and maybe can't make his payment right when. So there is benefit and we can offset that if we had to by borrowing more money. Maybe we won't have to, but
I think just the one thing I keep thinking about is, yes, it needs to be simple, but I think it also needs to be as nimble as possible too.
I agree.
Because everything we talk about as it pertains to this you have to worst case it, right?
Right.
And so what if August, September looks worse than April, March, April,
yeah, we
May,
don't know
right?
what's going
We
on.
can get hit with a shitstorm and then we have to reset, put everybody back in their homes and probably even more secluded than it was before because now it's real here, right? So through that lens, we have to have something that have a plan beyond this first step. So, and that goes back to the simplicity play, but I just wanted to put that out there.
Okay, if we go with this scenario, do we still have the option to huddle up and do something later?
does the state law prohibit us from doing that? That's a big question.
Yeah, I don't know that it does.
It's got complicated though, isn't it?
Well,
Because you're gonna get close to going into another year.
I unfortunately crossed that bridge my first few years. We were stuffing envelopes Labor Day weekend. That's how, because of that, I'm not even going into it, but things have been pushed back for a lot of counties because of that soil survey and stuff. The productivity, anyway, I shouldn't even talk about it because I'm not the expert at it. Dina could explain it. But anyway, we've been there, and it's a challenge, but it's not like it's, not doable. I mean, it can be done.
Don, so it is legally possible if we see, like Derek says, that in August there's real issues.
Right.
We could pass with your concurrence or you get together and
Suggestion,
figure
yeah.
out and say, okay, the last tax bill will not be due on the 14th or the whatever date I said in.
The 16th of October.
It might be due November 16th.
Right, we could still leave the one part in place where if you haven't paid it
Yeah,
by that second installment due date, sorry, we've got to do something to push this along. And
so
I
we
don't know
have
why
the
not.
flex-
I mean, look at I'm not comparing this to the state level of what the governor has done, but, you know, they've extended these things based on numbers.
I'm just asking, do we have the flexibility?
I
Well,
To
what
me.
I, what I read in the statute, the compiled statute, it doesn't say there's you can extend it, and it doesn't say there's a deadline, this is it as far as you can go. I think you can just,
I think they,
or how much you can stand.
the statute is designed that way so that it gives
Right.
counties flexibility, because this is some money that the state never sees. It stays right here except for when I send it out to overlapping districts.
Does that meet the nimble as well as simple?
So, I guess as we come to a decision on how to actually, or what we're gonna implement, is maybe not what's the easiest answer right now, what is the easiest in the aggregate, right? So, meaning that if we can do a little bit more work, Don, mostly in your office, as far as what we set up in place, that may be a little bit harder to do one iteration, but it makes it easier overall if we have to do the audit. Does that make sense?
Right.
So it may not be that, I mean, maybe it's it's already slid back naturally to these later dates and we give a 30-day grace period. If that allows us later on to be nimble and slide things back, great. If it's the other case that we have a grace period for the first payment, I don't know. That's how
I don't think we want to talk about grace periods. You're just simply not going to be, is that the right term?
Yeah,
It's just not
well,
going
It was
to be,
mentioned that there was one county had a 30-day grace period.
I just think
whatever
that
option
complicates
is, yeah.
things.
Okay.
Can we on this first resolution be it further resolved that this will be reviewed by the county board and tax collector based on things that happen in the meanwhile, where we leave it open, where we're recognizing that we can, whereas.
I'm not, can I interrupt, sorry.
No.
I'm not sure we need to even put that in. If we bump the due dates back a month, if things get tight, we can decide in 2 more meetings if we want to go ahead and waive the interest and penalties for being late.
On the second.
On either. You know,
Well, I
if
think
we,
we need to-
even if we bump the first one back to August, that to me is one motion and we do it. In July, if things are still looking tight and there's still COVID, we can come back and pass another resolution and say, you know, for that payment that's now due in August, we're gonna waive penalties and fees for being late. And if in September something comes around, we could choose to do that for the October. You know, if we're already bumping it back now a month, that's giving a month grace period on the whole shooting match as it is. I don't think we need to put another one on at the same time. That can be a separate
Is that
resolution.
doable, Don? from your-
I thought about that, John. The thing about it is, these tax bills, when we print them up, I want there to be some
You want it on-
I want it to say, do whatever, and do August 14th, but then it'll have that interest rate schedule on it, where it doesn't start until the second due date, and we can probably put an informational thing there. Hey, you'll notice that if you don't pay the first, I'm not gonna put a big information out of this, but they will notice that there's gonna be some hard interest hit the first day after the second installment. It could be as much as 4.5% instead of 1.5%. I mean, and that would be significant on some tax bills. So I guess I'm just saying, going back to
We need to be straightforward. We need to say
Straightforward.
exactly what's going to happen.
And
Right,
hold our-
it gets really confusing to the people that it needs to be least confusing to.
and then if things promote us to show some more relief to the taxpayers, we can do that within our office, as long as we do a resolution that says, I don't want to say at the discretion of the tax collector, because
That leaves it all up to you.
I would like it to say, in the event, or we come up with another resolution and we approach it then. I don't.
Yeah, I think, and do that, the second one, at a point that we find it necessary to do the second part. Yeah, that way, I mean, some people that are saying, hey, we'll just go ahead.
Now, are we in agreement though that when that second installment due date comes, and it's the next day, not only do you have the first installment with that retroactive, but technically the second installment starts 1.5%? Or do you want to automatically?
I would like to have it where, I mean, that's a good place to draw the line, right? So if we come under duress again, or worse, via COVID, if we have the ability to say, you know, all the stipulations apply, these are your first payment that you're talking about, but as we come up against that second payment date, we get it, then if it looks bad, we can come together and say, hey, update, your second payment is due December 15th with the same stipulations. Is that doable? Does that make sense?
Yeah, I just wanted to bring that, I just wanted to remind people that two interest things will be starting if we don't.
To that point, if it's bad, then we wouldn't start accruing the second interest at that point. It would wait until whatever date we decide.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
And
Yeah.
I think we need to have it clear on the tax bill if that's the way it is. I mean, I don't want somebody, you know, accidentally blowing off the date and having an absolute shock that they're getting doubled up on the fees. I think it's fair enough, I just think they need fair warning.
Right.
Even if you get it as clear as it possibly can be,
Yeah.
there will be some people that may not see it, or,
And there may be people that can't pay it.
yeah.
There's the people that wait till that last minute, and then they come in Monday morning at 9 o'clock in the morning. It was just due Friday. I'm sorry.
Apparently, we're unclear what that do, word means.
Yeah, you already had, our next business day started at 8 o'clock Monday morning. That means if we would have found it in our Dropbox, it's still considered Friday.
Right.
Okay, well, that means that, then you give them that reasoning, and then it's if I would have brought it in at 7 o'clock this morning and put it in your drop, I said, you're right, but this is 9 o'clock.
Don, do you have, maybe with Augie and the state's attorney, the ability, if we can't pass anything here today,
Right.
but I think it would be incumbent upon us, and specifically you, to lead, to get what we've said here, as you understand it, and get it into at least a rough form so we could take a look at it.
Yeah.
And then get it up to the
Second
state's attorney after we've had a chance to review it.
You expecting to pass it in the second meeting this month?
We can do that to give folks, we could have a special meeting on the study session.
And as
Okay.
long as we're all on board and we're all speaking the same
Right,
language.
and that's what
Your office can move forward, or whoever, no one's gonna be held up by the fact that we're gonna pass this in 2 weeks or whatever it is.
But we are letting the folks know as early as we possibly can what our intentions are. Does anybody disagree with that?
No.
John?
Do you feel like I suggested that an article in the paper once this is all,
Yes.
okay?
Yes. I think it's also important not to float too heavily that, well, if things don't get materially better, we're gonna do this, this, and this. That's not really helpful at this time.
Right.
Okay, I mean, people might count on something and it doesn't happen.
Right.
Okay, we're
Okay?
gonna do some definite relief, and then as time goes on, we may do some more definite relief.
Now, the highway department, as well as the general fund, if you get tight, we can float anticipation warrants on your tax levies, okay? Hopefully, we will not have to, but I just wanted to let you know that, in other words, if you have a $400,000 general fund that you operated off of, you can get 300, you can get basically 75% of it, okay? Just to let you know. Don will be excited about handling more anticipation work.
I feel like this is winding down, so I will say this. I've got a lot going on in my personal life. I'm gonna be a grandfather again in the middle of next month, so I'm just as anxious to see things get flowing where I can budget my time. But you can bet the tax bills will get out the way they should.
Nobody's afraid of that at all. You know,
I'll just put my wife in her spot and tell her, this is the way it's gonna be.
you let me know how that works, and I'll try it.
I've got it there.
It's on camera.
I'll set a good example for you guys.
Carl?
Hey,
Nice knowing you.
go to Sangamon County Clerk's website. It's April 13th meeting, Resolution 1, and that's a very good sample of what they passed, and that's generally what we're talking about here.
Okay, thanks,
And
Carl.
that gives you a good idea.
I will leave, if you don't mind.
Nope. Are you having a, what's to?
These, I don't know how much it means, but the only thing that has hit our bank account at this moment is sales tax. And it's not even part of the figures yet, folks, so just,
Okay,
and,
it's ugly. Thank you, Don.
I gotta get back and having my nails done.
And your hair.
And your hair.
Oh,
Oh,
my wife has always wanted to cut my hair. I finally gave her permission, then she says, oh, but I like it longer. I think she makes her feel younger too, I don't know.
Donald, your coat.
My wife said that
Mine
my
going
sideburn would grow out.
I don't think you guys got much hope no matter what.
Some of us don't have any problem, right?
Well, Les said I had a lot of gray hair. My answer to that is, you don't have a lot of gray hair.
I do have a feature.
Very good. That wasn't funny.
Thank you. By the way, there are no positive cases in the county. We've had 152 negatives, and we've got 11 waiting for them to be, the final results. So there's 163 tests.
Test they use, is that quicker than, is it still 3 to 4 days?
No, it's a day,
Okay.
okay? All right,
No matter me.
Did we wanna-
That just came through right now? Okay.
that's what I was waiting on from ESDA.
Okay.
What about the letter? What some of the other counties are doing? Did you want to talk about that at all today? Clark County just recently passed, last Friday?
I'd like a copy of that, because I guess, you have a copy of that on you?
It's on the email.
I emailed
Well, now
that.
I got one, but then I was understood that's not what they passed.
Yes, they passed a modified one later
That's
on.
why Did you send that one out too?
Yeah.
All right,
I
guess
forwarded both of those.
They were very close. What it did was take the edge off and the liability off a little bit on that deal. Then Madison County, the health department is letting the state's attorney check theirs, but they're basically saying to folks, that's the health department, not the county board now. They're saying to Dan, the businessman, if you want to reopen, just tell us that you're going to and list what you're going to do to mitigate the COVID-19 deal. And we'll just say very quickly, okay or not, okay?
So they're not necessarily going by the governor's.
No, the health department is saying, we're the ones that are deciding.
Okay.
Then this morning Iroquois was on the news, Iroquois County, and they're gonna pass something similar supposedly to what the Clark County did. But, yes, Dan.
Okay, if you open up and you're not supposed to, and you get sick and have to be put in hospitals, health insurance gonna cover that?
Your health insurance is covered to the extent that your health insurance covers it now, I suppose. Where you,
It would cover it?
I'm not an insurance
No, me neither.
person. I know that your insurance, if you have private health insurance or company health insurance or business, you should be covered. The liability issue comes
That's why it's.
in your liability, owning a business. If Dan Bruner Company opens and somebody comes in and then
Cats plus.
Cats Plus,
That's your-
and
that's your business.
they say that they got COVID-19 from one of your cats, they could sue you.
I'm feeding ducks now too, so.
Jesus Christ.
Well,
okay, or,
yes.
On that same conversation, is there any expectation on when we could potentially hear a response to the letter we sent?
No, I tried to get a hold of the mayor earlier to hear whether, or to see if he'd heard nothing. I have heard nothing, and as far as I didn't get a hold of Ollie to see if he'd heard anything.
The Indiana's open today, so if you need a haircut, you might go
What?
to Indiana. They're opening up.
or you wanna go eat, or you wanna go anything that,
That you can't do here?
So
You can't
when,
do it
when
here.
we, when did that go out? When did that letter go?
That went out Friday afternoon, about 4:30, 4:45. It was electronically sent to the governor at 2 locations, and then it was also, hard copy was mailed to the Springfield office and the Chicago office, return receipt requested.
Yeah, I can see him jumping right
So we were
on that.
divided up in the region, so, and our region has less, people that have the disease or died, so
we
would
have
that
done.
influence the letter that we send? Because we don't have as many people that
That-
Well,
are affected?
The region.
I can't answer for who's decided, okay? I don't know. I mean, all we could do was take a mature, responsible stance.
So you don't wanna go any farther at this point?
Oh, no, that's not up to me.
Okay, no, but
I
I
mean,
mean,
I-
us.
My position is, let's see where this goes, give it a week. If not, in this kind of scenario, I don't have a problem getting together for a special meeting. Getting, united front with the city of Paris. We get a no or no answer, then we move to the next step. But I would just assume be as methodical and biased to the side of caution, just for the same reason we talked about earlier,
Right.
just worst case it, right? So if we get hit with a, a high infection rate or whatever, however you wanna, draw that out in your head, it'd be nice to have the backing of the state if we need it. So that's kind of where I go with this whole thing. I think that was a great first step, is the request. And then if we don't get there, we have other things that we can do.
I assume your second step is something very similar to Clark County's.
Yeah, I mean, as much as we can put mitigation away, lean on our own health department, our regional hospital for those answers, what they think is acceptable, like, I wanna be as covered as we can, so if things turn around, we can hold this up and say, here's what we did. I don't know how you can expect us to do anything different, we need help or whatever, like I say, just kind of a CYA.
There was supposed to be a number of people here today, and there may be on Wednesday, but hopefully they read the paper and they know we're not sitting on our hands, neither the city or the county.
Gary have a copy of our letter?
You what?
Does Gary have a
Yes,
copy
I
of
do.
our
Oh,
letter?
yes, the mayor gave it to him about that time when the governor got
A
it.
big crowd Wednesday, I hope.
Well,
I hope we do.
If they'd read the Prairie Press on Saturday, it basically said what we were trying to do, right?
Yeah.
So,
Well, I think people know what's going on, but they still wanna,
express
I'm gonna
your
listen to my wife Wednesday, that'll be fun.
Yeah.
no, that's fine, no, and everybody's welcome.
Does that timeline seem reasonable?
Yeah,
So
it makes sense
if,
to me.
whatever it would be, Augie, if it would be a Monday or Tuesday, whatever works for everybody, if by Friday we haven't heard anything, we can talk, schedule a special meeting for the following week as soon as possible, and figure out what the next steps are. Is that?
And by that time, some other counties may be doing some interesting things too. And I still don't regret, or I hope you don't, what we've done so far.
What's our date? To hear back from him before we.
But we have, that was asked, we have no
A
idea.
week?
He's saying by Friday, that if we haven't heard back,
If we hear back from them, then we have to have a resolution to say you can open.
no, that, if he follows what we've asked in the weather, or in the letter, he would have said, okay, because they're a poster child, which I can't imagine, any rate, he'd move us to 3 and 4.
Okay. So
That would be
we
his
have a
action.
resolution.
That would be his action, and that way, we wouldn't be going counter to state,
Okay.
and that way, all the protections and not having to worry about the health department coming in
Okay.
or any other issues are vacated. And that's what we'd like to see, clean.
That probably gonna happen with Pritzker.
Oh, that's fine, if not, then.
If
move on to the
not,
next
then
thing
we
next week.
will move to another step.
And the more we can plagiarize other counties that have good ideas and put them all together and, you know, put our best plan forward, then that, we're better off.
And we had the argument that we offered a reasonable
Yep.
argument to saying that we should be accepted from this condition.
Would that hinge on how many people we have tested? Could we ask for more tests?
That's gonna happen anyway this week, and I should have asked her.
Okay.
Additionally, remember, in the letter, it says now that Carl is gonna give us the capacity to do 300 tests and 300 labs.
Right.
Should we have an incident like at, God forbid, one of the businesses or manufacturers here in town, or the nursing home or assisted living, we can go in there and boom, test rapidly staff and or residents and or workers.
NAL has 1,500 employees. Surely one of those would test positive, you would
Sure.
think, out of 1,500. And they come from Indiana, a lot
Or
of
that they've
them.
had it, you know.
Well,
Or
I
they've
know.
had it already.
Yeah,
If anybody's
that's what I'm saying,
testing
yeah.
along.
Well, and here's the deal. Indiana opened up today,
Yeah, right.
so, I mean, what are we protected from now at this point?
well, and Iroquois County's argument was, we've only had 93 cases in this county, and based upon our population, we should be open.
Well, same way
Yeah,
here, same
and I-
way here.
I'm of the same mind, we've had no cases.
That's what I'm just,
Exactly right. I
But
mean,
we're
they
going
had
to-
93.
We're going to test 170 out of 17,000. Surely somebody in Edgar County to run tests on, say, 500 people, we're going to find one or two that will test positive, which means they'll have the antibody, which means they had the virus, but they're well now. And that's what you're testing for. But they can spread it to somebody else.
well, this is all supposing.
So, in any of those, and I haven't read closely any of them, I mean, in the language of those, do they have how they would close back down if they
They've just
had a spike
said,
in infections?
in Clark County, for example, they say if something happens, we'll just roll her back up again. They have no,
That's the other side of it too. The other concern I have is without the state broadcasting every day, you know, I feel like it'd be harder for us to implement a shutdown at the county level. I could be wrong, but that's one of my concerns. If we gotta go back the other way.
Have to shut down again.
Yeah, I mean, it's easy to start up and say, hey, everybody go do your thing, but
Right.
then if
Try to shut down.
no one's gonna wanna shut back down,
Right.
how much swing do we have in going and shutting places down if needed?
Yeah,
Which I hope we don't have to worry about,
Right.
but that's our job to think about. So, you know, if there's language out there that's better than, hey, we'll just roll it back up. I'd
we'll
like to
take a
see it.
look at some of the stuff, okay?
Well, so hopefully we get a good word from the state, but I'm not holding my breath even, so.
Any other discussion based on, so we're gonna hide and watch till Friday, and then we'll judge where we should go from there.
Yeah.
If
well,
we
I
have
would
to have a
say-
special meeting next week, we will.
I would say find out where the city of Paris is as well. Obviously,
Right.
That's.
Yeah, the mayor and I've been
if they wanna
talking
hold
about
off
every
a little
day.
longer, We can negotiate that.
Yep. Anybody
Yeah.
else?
One question.
Yes.
Like if, say, one of us or two of us want to be tested, can we go somewhere to be tested
No, I
without
don't think that's the way
symptoms?
it works.
Without symptoms?
Not without symptoms.
Okay, that was-
My understanding from Sam was, for example, you, Dan,
Mhm.
with your conditions,
Yeah, right.
could get tested.
Okay.
Derek, without any problems, you probably, unless you had a doctor's orders, could not get tested.
Then I should be. able to
You
test
should easily,
Yeah.
I've been told I could be, Carl could be, I'm sure Andy
I
could
know I
be,
could be if I wanted.
Augie could be.
Yeah,
It just depends on your situation.
yeah.
And they're
Okay.
all ignoring me because they know I'm not gonna get tested.
You're such a stubborn person.
No, you're running cows, you can get it from your cows.
Yeah, have you tried to put masks on 150 cows? It's been
I'd like to see that.
ass.
Anyone else? I'd like to
You ought to do that and post it, at least a couple of them.
Put that on Facebook.
Sure, try this.
Hey, we're safe out here.
Yeah.
Look at this lamb.
Yeah, right.
All right. So we're all together on that? How about the agenda? Let's see, claims, okay. First one is we're resolution to set salaries for elected officials with terms beginning 12/1. We still don't have the state's attorney's blessing on it, but we've got Angie and Scott who are coming up for election, and basically we've done what we've done before, and that's a +3 for the 4 years. Is that not correct?
Yes, sir.
And then we're getting some clarification on other issues to make sure that the mileage and everything else is in there correctly, just to make sure everything's looked at twice to make sure everything's right, because we won't have a chance to do anything about theirs for another 4 years, or ours for 2. Let's see, award contract for aerial assessment. We're gonna fly the county next year.
Didn't we just do that?
It's been 3 years.
Seems like it's just yesterday, doesn't it?
Time flies.
Yeah, I thought that was an every 10-year thing. Is it
No,
every 3?
it's- Yeah, and she will be here to explain it.
You know,
I'm not real good. She has kept me, they had a bidding deal. It's around 50 grand, okay? And that comes out of GIS, which she has the funds to
Yeah,
cover.
I'm familiar.
No, I
with
just
those guys.
wanted-
Just thinking it's a 10-year deal, not 3.
Reappoint Dale English, Greg Henry, and John Chittick to the Farmland Committee.
What does that committee do? What's the function?
It essentially oversees that farm ground values are reasonably competitive and accurately assessed.
And explain to
You
the
need a
farmers.
lot of work
Yeah,
there,
and
John.
explain, we have a public meeting, and as you can imagine, there's some that come in and complain. The last one, we actually had, I believe she was an attorney from the Farm Bureau that explained, what's that?
Bob Goblin?
No, he doesn't have any farm ground I know of.
He's one of those guys that has a lot of questions that the farmland is
Right.
assessed at a much
Yeah.
lower rate than it
We
should
hear
be.
it all the time.
John,
There was actually,
We hear it all
the
the time.
the last meeting, we had, I believe she's an attorney, but she worked for Farm Bureau, and she gave the history on how the assessment came back, because the lower quality ground, the prices have been rising a lot faster, and it all goes back to some rules they changed 8 years ago, and I'd have to review notes to explain it accurately, but it was interesting to hear.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it is.
okay.
Did you have anything else on that issue?
No, I just,
Okay. Let's see. Next one is the ordinance to create special service area number 2 for the Northern Edgar County Ambulance Service. The board got together of the Northern Edgar County and all of the districts, and I think you should have received Ross's last night or today. So all of that's been put together. The attorneys have looked at the ordinance, and we need to execute that so that they can start the clock on when they have their public hearing and all that other business. The process will take roughly 4 months
we gotta put it out on bid, right, eventually?
eventually, but we're quite a ways from that. We're probably not quite a year away from that, probably next spring sometime.
Are
Okay?
all the parties involved up there good with how the ordinance is written?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. In fact, it was modeled almost 100% on the number 1 district in how it was written.
Yeah, no, that's fine, I just want to make sure we don't have
No.
one township that's really humped about it and find out later.
Well, I'm not gonna say that everybody's just all tickled to death, but they're
Right.
okay. How's that?
You have a resolution from every township involved.
Right,
Okay.
okay? Let's see, we're gonna reappoint Bill McCord, trustee, Fire Protection District up at Metcalf in his bond and oath. Let's see, authorize chairman to execute lease with the Edgar County Housing Authority. Andy, what is that, we're gonna pay, we thought originally it was gonna be $1.
Yeah.
We can't do that,
Well,
but they
yeah.
are going to pay all of the utilities and we're gonna pay so much a
He
month.
said utilities run around $600 a month there, and he goes, we'll pay utilities, but we're gonna charge you $500 a month.
Okay.
And I said,
So-
well, that's better deal that way anyway, so.
So at any
So
rate.
rather than $1, it's $500, but they pay the utilities.
And just to review, that is the building on the left side as you enter the housing authority. And it used to be a rec building, the city used to use it for their detectives and for the police department. Now, I went over there one day, a couple weeks ago, took a look at it, I think it's gonna be a nice facility for our sheriff's department to have an area to do their thing in.
Do we need the space?
Yes,
Okay.
because they're doing things up at the jail.
911,
911, I guess they're getting a lot of new equipment. It's gonna require more space for them, and they're doing some things, and it's really pinching on that. I think it's really,
not all of that is resolved.
right.
But, you know, in difference to the sheriff's department, I think this will be extremely productive for them, okay?
Yeah.
How everything else plays out, Carl and I have no idea, right? So, at any rate, so that's gonna be just, we'll need a resolution on that. Reappoint Stanley, or Roger Stanley and Susan Saxton.
Question. They're gonna vote on those two together or separately?
Do it however you want.
I've always been a little irritated, I guess, not irritated, but why on the assessment board are they, up till this last lady got on there, they were all, don't take this personally, they were all three farmers. Why is it the city or, not represented by somebody, maybe can't get anybody to do it, I don't know.
I think we'll have an opportunity in a year to get that squared away.
I hope so, I have no problem with Roger.
No,
The
I know what you're
other
saying.
lady, I don't know, she would probably, from my understanding, would be just fine either way.
I know Susan, she's well-versed,
That's what I've been told, I have a
She's-
little problem with
she's a
number three.
good person,
Yeah,
and has done Dina's extremely happy with her, because
Good.
she has done,
Well, that's what we were
Well-
told, that she would fit in really well.
Yes.
I don't have a problem with her or Roger.
but we need to rectify the other situation. I
Yeah,
think
we
that'll
do.
offer it us, you know
Yes,
what
we
I'm
do.
talking about.
They
Okay.
didn't bother you, did it? It's
Nope.
okay? Okay. You're off a big
Is anybody
piece.
offended?
Not yet.
Well, hang around. Let's see, where are we at? Okay, reappoint Pat Rhodes, trustee at the Fire Protection District and his bond. And then we'll go through department heads, officers, and committee reports. Do any of you have any reports from your particular areas which you would like to discuss?
We're just smart while we're about, I believe, 72%, 73%.
Something like that.
And a lot of what is left is instruction.
Well, they need to instruct,
I had a question for you, Andy.
they can instruct you on that heat.
yeah,
Yeah,
I think you're complaining out there.
yeah, no, I'm curious. Go ahead.
I've heard that HRC isn't doing some of the work that they were contracted
Right.
as of the contract because they do have people with some respiratory issues and they're concerned about the health. You know,
You're right.
is that something we just want to keep going as it is? I mean, I really hate cutting back on a contract with HRC in a lot of ways, but
Well, I
If
don't
we're
mind.
paying to get floors mopped and they're not getting done,
Right. And we're
Well, I
paying-
think that contract is simply suspended. Now, the question is, how are we handling the rest of it while that contract is not?
You have suspended it?
Well, in essence it is, because
Yeah,
they're not
we're still
coming
paying
in.
The same amount,
well,
aren't we?
they're still coming in and doing some, I understand.
Right.
Let me ask, I'm curious to what we do on, if we hear anything back or make any moves on our own as far as this letter to the governor and things, will that change them at all, I wonder?
I don't know, wouldn't that be a question for Jonathan? To
Probably.
ask him with what happens? They may still believe as a board that they don't want their clients, and they are clients, out there subjected to certain things. I don't know. Augie, your thoughts?
Well, what I've been told is that they refer to the people that come in as consumers.
Okay, consumers.
Those are the ones who are,
I thought they were clients.
there's challenges, mentally challenged, but the supervisor people are still coming. So it might be, and please don't quote me on this, but it might be a administrative assistant one time, and it might be another person in the office another time, but the consumer people are not working. Did you guys understand that?
Yeah.
Yes.
But the staff is still coming in and trying to do what they can.
Yeah, usually
Help
it's,
keep things going.
usually it's two people, and I was told they're gonna still come Monday, Wednesday, Friday, which I have seen their van. I don't watch them work, I don't track them. I do see it pull up though.
Do we have any deficiencies?
Yes.
Well,
Well, I don't think we all know who's on the same page and the money that's going out. And
what does that mean?
well, I think that means if you asked me, I would suggest you call a building and grounds committee meeting and get everybody together so we can find out what Mike's schedule is. I think he's picking up more hours, doing more cleaning, I think. And whereas HRC is doing a little less because of the availability of the help they get. And so you're
We
still
need
paying
a bill adjustment?
Yeah, you're paying the same price, but you're not getting as much out of it. And you're also, we're incurring more of an expense with Mike, as I understand it. And I don't want to get too detailed with personnel, because that's really not
Right.
our place
Well,
to do that.
Andy,
here.
can you,
Yeah, I guess part of, and I was gonna do that, but I talked to Mike, and actually, the sheriff is who entered into that contract, isn't he?
well,
We
But
can still.
that doesn't mean we still don't have to deal with it.
Okay.
The sheriff needs to be at the meeting, you need to pull in HRC and
Good luck with it.
figure out, maybe have Hennis around so he can tell you his, or talk to him.
Okay.
We need Mike there, and I talked to Mike last week, and, you know, his position is he's getting everything done, everything's getting done as it needs to be, but he is putting more hours in.
But he told me he didn't mind doing it.
And he doesn't mind doing
Right,
it, no,
said
he
likes
doesn't,
doing it,
but
So,
But if we're still paying full shot on that contract, that's a problem.
yeah. Okay, we'll put something together then. I'll see if I can get the sheriff in on it.
Without getting
I
into
just felt kind of
Thank you,
funny when I
Augie.
looked at, he's the one who entered into that, set that all up, but, okay,
Let me know, and
All right.
I'll post your meeting.
okay.
Other items? I have a few. The airport got notice of us receiving a $20,000 grant through the PPP program to offset maintenance, and we've reached the point where we can turn that all in. Tom is working that up with our engineer, said that he would help him and check it over to make sure it was correct so that we can get that money sent to us. It's administered through the Division of Aeronautics, Department of Transportation. Any questions on that? It'll cover all of our, from the 19th of March through the current amount. We can use it for maintenance, personnel, everything else, and so we'll be able to be reimbursed for those items for the past month and a half.
And 25% utilities,
Well,
yeah.
whatever, yeah. Anyway, we reached that easily, just in personnel.
Okay.
The bids for the airport were, well, we only received one for the program. Have we talked about this to the
I was
board?
trying to remember if we had or not. Basically, the most recent letting on our project that we've reduced came in about the price of the original project with both pieces, so it was a fail. So, back to the drawing board as far as that goes. And based on status quo, it doesn't seem like we're gonna see an end to that trend line, so.
One of the things they are doing, and they had thought about, but need to marry concrete with asphalt base. And there are a lot of more bidders for concrete than there are, and putting in concrete than there are for asphalt. Asphalt has become extremely expensive in relationship to concrete. So they're gonna look at that proposal and maybe marrying
I
that.
hadn't seen, they haven't made any progress on finding whether or not that can happen.
No, I haven't
Expectation
seen
would be-
anything yet. It was just something that they were going to do.
Rather than put asphalt in some places, they may,
So the last project that we put up for bid was strictly the resurfacing of the parallel taxiway to our main runway. So, which is in asphalt currently. So, and that, if you recall back a few years ago, we had Nico come out and do a strip that needed a little bit of other patchwork. So that's what they were gonna replace. Originally, that project was the resurfacing as well as the remainder of our ramp space, which is that little rectangle on the, was that south side?
okay.
So, no, I'm sorry, the east side? East. I get turned around, east side of the ramp. So, so if they can figure out a way to put that on, he hasn't given me any timeline, but I don't know. I guess if they figure it out, they could potentially put it on the July letting, but I haven't seen anything about that, so.
They were gonna evaluate all that and get back to us.
Crude oil must be driving up asphalt.
Yeah.
There was a Texas firm that gave a bunch of money to Illinois for the COVID-19 costs that counties were including, I'm sorry. The counties were incurring expenses for the COVID virus, and this Texas firm, through the foundation here in our county, has awarded us $7,500 to ESDA as a donation. It's to be used for education, for supplies, whatever it happens to be. And Jill has asked that we think about, she's coming up with some ideas on how we might use this money, either at the schools, the nursing homes, the assisted living, the hospital, testing. There's all kinds of things that we might be able to use it for. Hopefully the health department meeting in the morning, on Wednesday morning, might consider how that might be used. You might bring that up to them, Dan. And so we can come up.
$7,500, you say?
$7,500. Don does have the money, and we asked him to put it into a donation fund for ESDA, so you will see that in there. And then it's up to us to take a proposal and approve it, okay? Jail, DOC, and Carl, have you been in the jail since I've talked to you? DOC did their inspection, what it was, Friday? Friday morning. They were well pleased. They're gonna have a document and a letter to us, or a inspection report by tomorrow or Wednesday. So hopefully we'll see something. And the insurance company has all of the paperwork that was generated by Jay and or Derek in their hands now, and are reviewing it and are waiting. And as far as the engineering report from last fall. They have all of that, and they will get this DOC report. The DOC report also, the folks said that they would like to be there when the insurance company is there, and they've made them aware of it. Bartos sent a letter to the insurance company saying that he expects them to do it as quickly as they can, and he wants to be present when they do it. What else, Carl, am I forgetting? They're gonna have to do staff reviews. They wanna talk to some of the staff that are already exist at the jail, the insurance company does. When the inspection took place by the DOC, HRC folks were there and our nurse was there. I mean, they had it all lined up, so they got to, if they had a question, the folks were right there, okay? So, there's a couple of things yet to do. They've got some tile to replace before the insurance company goes, and they were waiting for their base molding, but everything else is done, okay? And we suggested that all of those things be done before the insurance company comes. Because, you know, even though the leaks were cured a long time ago, you don't wanna see crappy ceilings. And, you know, things should be done. There's no reason not to have them done.
Have you looked at the roof on that?
I haven't been up
I've driven
there.
by, there's a bunch, there's quite a big patch, have you seen it, Carl? There's a big patch of shingles missing on that kind of steeple place.
On the jail?
That tile stuff?
It's there's shingles on the, I call it like the steeple, the tall part.
I'll drive down.
Yeah,
Look,
'cause-
there's a bunch of them missing, I suppose.
Cause there's nothing on the ground. I've walked around the jail.
I'll look and see.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I noticed there's a bunch of shingles.
Cause I mean, that's an
I don't wanna
issue.
get any more leaks on any of that stuff, so, okay.
On a side note, the, Jay said that he had 16 or 17 applications for jailers. They've hired one new part-timer who's already started, who does not need to be trained.
Road deputy.
I'm sorry, road deputy. Thank you, Carl. And they have another one that they're gonna be bringing on that is also trained. And it's kind of a look-see, okay? That's all I have at this point.
Are they gonna get that check system in, or is it already in?
It's in, it's done. Anything else come before the meeting?
Have any idea when they're gonna inspect the jail, see if it passes?
No, we're waiting till,
Put the coat
You're
on.
talking about from the insurance company?
Yeah.
The DOC was there and was very happy with everything. They're-
That's what I wondered.
Yeah, and now it's basically, you know, all the information, the policies and procedures that they had issues with, that was all been approved, or Shay has got all that together and it's turned over to the insurance company to see if it passed their muster. And then the DOC report will be sent to them, and then they'll be hired to sit down and take a look at it. And they wanna go through some scenarios with the jailers to see some different things, so hopefully within the next 30 days. I mean, we don't have a time frame.
No,
But
yeah.
hopefully within the next 30 days, they'll come down and we can see where we're at, and see if they're gonna be well and open, approve us for insurance, so we can open.
we've
back
been
up.
pushing. We've been pushing.
Have they, arrested less people now than they, say, when they were having 30 people in the jail? Have any idea how many inmates they have at a time?
Look at Carl.
Well, I don't know if, I'm sure the arrests are probably down, but they're handling it a little different, you know, they're doing more, notice to appears, stuff like that, so there's less people. I know at one time we were having 30 people housed out, and last I heard, this was a couple weeks ago, we had 12.
I just wondered, the white van never leaves the jail.
Well, see, they're not having a whole lot of court, a lot of that's being postponed, so they're not having to transport people for court.
It seems like it never leaves the parking lot.
Well, they haven't, since all this has happened, there's just not much
Yeah,
court
so
activity.
that's what I was wondering.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Another key thing that I forgot is that we have suggested that they interview, the insurance company interview Derek and Jay,
Right.
as well as talking to jailers about procedures and how to handle things, okay? But I think that that is extremely necessary, and they have said yes. So, I mean, I think that guys are covering the bases pretty good at this point.
What about the heat?
I'm gonna get right on that.
Motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Derek moves. Andy seconds. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Thank you all. I will keep you posted.